We've got Raphael Zagury joining us here this morning to help us dive deeper into the fundamentals and get into a little bit what's behind the technicals here. Chief Investment Officer at Swan Bitcoin. Raphael, good to have you with us and back with us here on this Friday. We started off the show talking about the trend up in stocks. We got a similar pattern playing out in Bitcoin this week.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Ben, again. Great to be here. It's good to see what's happening. I think last time I was here, the ETFs were not approved yet. A lot has changed, and I think we're about to see some massive changes in Bitcoin for the next, during these years. It's going to be super interesting. We're going to be seeing supply and demand shocks coming into play, and that bodes really well for price, I believe.
Let's talk about some of those focal points here for investors and traders now that we do have the Bitcoin ETF, the approval, the news behind us. We did see some price decay, but as I just pointed to, somewhat limited. We were able to hold above some key areas, that 37,000 level. After taking out some key structure, it saw limited follow through. I guess the question here is, what's the next big hurdle for the bulls here? And then we can get into fundamentals. I'm just curious on your technical thoughts here. Is it this 49,000 high that I just pointed to? Is it really that 69K all-time high that we saw? I mean, where are they going to be able to claim that next level of victory?
Yeah, Ben, I think, when we look at Bitcoin, it's so early, right? And when we think about the total addressable market, it's so big that at the end of the day, it's very hard to know what price it's gonna do. I think price, definitely long-term is gonna go significantly higher than this. Okay. I wouldn't be surprised if we see an all-time high, in the next few months, given what we're seeing. But I think you touched on a point that it's super important. When you look at the ETF and what has happened, right? The ETF enables, it's like a 10-lane highway that it's open for people that want to navigate and buy Bitcoin, right? In previous cycles, we didn't have that. The on-ramps were very limited. And I think when we start seeing price moving up, the self-fulfilling prophecy of people just looking at the halving, everything that is happening, right? That has potential to shoot prices up very, very quickly.
Here's a quick look at the longer term chart here. That's the 1 year, 1 day chart we were just looking at there, and the trend higher. It's pretty well defined here. Off the October lows, almost identical again as far as what we're seeing as far as the indices. The one difference is, obviously, again, with the indices to new all-time highs, Bitcoin's lagging a little bit here, to say the least, right? 69K was that all-time high from November. We're talking October, November of 2021. But what are we seeing in terms of inflows? Have they been impressive? Have the bulls been seeing what they were looking for in terms of the approval for the ETF and the dust settling thereafter?
Yeah, I think on the ETF, we saw 2 cycles, right? The first one, we did see a lot of transitioning, a lot of investors that were traditionally on GBTC, which is longer term, an alternative for anybody that had a brokerage account to have some exposure. And we've been seeing, since the ETFs were approved, some cycles of flows coming out of GBTC and going to the other ETFs. If we look particularly in the last weeks and even more yesterday, right, you see that the net flows are actually becoming very positive, right? I don't think there's a coincidence that we're seeing price skyrocket today, given the flows that we've seen yesterday. If you look yesterday, the net inflows, they get to around 9,000 Bitcoins of positive inflows into Bitcoin. The ETFs have to find these Bitcoins, they have to buy the Bitcoins at the end of the day, and that leads to higher prices, right? And just to put in perspective, 9,000 Bitcoins today, it's 10 days of mining, right? And after the halving, that's going to be 20 days of mining. And as I said, I think this is all coming to fruition at the right time. And it's going to take some time. I think we're still going to see some cycling out of GBTC, but at the end of the day, the fundamentals, as you said, it's what really drives Bitcoin price in the long term. And that now we at least have some good on-ramps to get into Bitcoin.
Yeah, Raphael, I would argue and support that a narrative with just kind of adding the fact that we have seen not only the bid, right, price hold these upper levels, but slow but steady. That's what I think a lot of investors want to see. Not necessarily the big swings one way or the other, the highly volatile type environment here. This is looking a little bit more like that stock market rally, again, kind of climbing that mountain at a pace that investors like to see. Talk to us about the next big event here. Ultimately, it looks like Bitcoin is halving in 70 days here. Can you explain to us exactly what it means?
Yeah, I think when we compare what we've seen, there are 2 different, there's a supply shock and a demand shock coming, which is super interesting, right? So on the demand side, we just talked about it. The ETF is out there. There's a lot of flows that are going to be coming. But then, and even more importantly, right, on the supply side, we know that every 4 years, the supply of Bitcoin is cut in half. That's coming up in around 70 days, right? And Bitcoin, I think, is the most interesting asset that we've ever seen because most assets historically, if you look at oil, if you look at gold, whenever it had periods of price, starting to shoot up, that naturally led to more miners going out there, mining more gold, drilling more oil, right? The miners in Bitcoin, they can hash as quickly as they want. They can put as many machines as they want to hash. And two things are for certain, first, the 21 million cap is never going to be broken, right? And second, difficulty is going to be adjusted every 2 weeks. So you mine more, difficulty goes up, and just trying to adjust to that average block time of 10 minutes between blocks. And that's very different than any other commodities that we've seen out there. So we're heading into a situation where now, as I said, we have the ETF as an on-ramp ready for seeing a lot of inflow. Anybody that has been in Bitcoin for a while remembered it in the last cycles, in the previous cycles. We've seen exchanges just shutting down whenever it started to see price go up very quickly and a lot of demand coming in. That's not going to happen now. Can buy an ETF out of any brokerage account, and at the end of the day, these ETFs are going to have to find, the real thing, real Bitcoin to put in their balance sheet. Is that the best thing for holders to own? No, probably, having real Bitcoin in their wallet's the best thing, but it provides an on-ramp for many people that don't have any Bitcoin right now. You pair that with what I just said, which is the supply shock that we're going to see in the halving, and historically halvings tend to, and who knows if that's self-fulfilling prophecy or not, but halvings tend to lead to higher prices, right? So it's, as I said, I think super excited to see what's going to happen this year with the halving coming up. We have the ETFs on the other hand. I think we could be heading to uncharted territory on Bitcoin.
All right, I like it. It gives us something to keep an eye on here and definitely helps us get a little bit of context in terms of the rally that we've seen, the move up in price activity, and glad to be able to bring it to our viewers' attentions and to break it down a bit with you as well as we head into the end of the week, because it's definitely been one of the trends that's been a bit overshadowed as we've seen stocks rallying here. They've commanded the attention, really stolen the spotlight. Raphael Zagury, appreciate you joining us, sharing part of your Friday morning with us, Chief Investment Officer at Swan Bitcoin.